All right, all right. Happy Thursday. We are back. Digital Marketing Network. Mickey Black, Jennifer J in the mix. How's it going?
It is going good. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Pretending like it's Friday, but we are back talking about social media. So I know that's the big thing. Everybody is really focused on social media in terms of marketing reach, most bang for your buck. We're talking about a couple of different tips, hacks, and things that work. Of course, we use Go High Level around here, but wanted to talk about some of the things that we were seeing working specifically on social. So I know you're big on social, Jen. What are you doing these days in terms of things that are working for your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So the comment to DM is what's been working really, really well for my clients. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, we are talking about the social media automations and AI that we can use to be able to connect with people better, right? Instead of having them click the link in our bio or go to this website, or even with my method, texting us the number, right? So they can comment a word and then you can DM them the response. So let's just say I'm having my webinar today, right? So if I wanted to get people to register for the webinar, I can say comment the word webinar and I'll DM you the registration. Well, technically, using Go High Level software, I can already register them if they DM, right? So I could, if they're already in my system. Otherwise, I
Gotcha.
have to ask them for their email address so I can register them, right? Or I could just say, hey, register these people through DM, just send them the messaging at the time, send them the link to join at the time, right? You can still do it that way. So being able to meet people where they are, because if you're scrolling, right? I like to scroll on TikTok a lot. If I'm scrolling, I don't want to stop the scroll to go do what you're telling me to do. But if I can just hit and comment and then you send it to me, okay, good. We're good. Now you didn't take me away from what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I like it for a number of reasons because it also it takes advantage of the fact that Go High Level enables you to talk to different people on different platforms. So if somebody reaches out on social, you can automatically reach back out on social and continue that stream through the system. And then you can also, I think it's important what you talked about,
Mhm.
people not wanting to get off the platform, people not wanting to interrupt their experience. But if
Mhm.
you follow up, you put that either in their DM or if you put it in their inbox, they can follow up and action on it later. Because I notice as my database matures and I've got people's social profile tied into their email and their phone numbers, I can then, if they comment and I can see that that person also has already pre-opted in with their email, I can then just continue that dialogue. So I like the fact that you can start at one place, follow up where it's convenient, and then have them action elsewhere to kind of close the loops. I think that's a real effective strategy.
Yes, it definitely is. And it works really well for my customers. So the customers that are active on like Instagram and Facebook when they're running a campaign. So I give you a prime example when they're trying to sell something, right? I had a customer who was selling their course. And so they had everybody comment a word. Everybody that commented that word, we sent them the link to sign up for the course during that time period. It was just a 1 week span. And so just in that 1 week, that customer was able to generate 5 figures from just this campaign. right?
That's a big deal.
Just being able to do it. And it allowed that customer to be able to just focus on creating the content
Yeah.
and posting it, right? Because we weren't that's what not what we do. We don't do social media. We do automations, right? So we'll automate your social media for you. The rest you have to do. But because we work together on this, like you do your part, we do ours, the automations were working. Now, one thing I did have to adjust was those people who didn't pay attention, right? Blink, blink, blink. All right. And didn't put the right word. And then the people who followed them with the wrong word, right? So I had to go in and adjust the automation to capture those as well.
Gotcha.
But that's the only tweaking I needed to do. So once I caught all those iterations of how they were commenting that word, it was just post, go, post, comment, go, post, comment, go.
That's a good tip, because that's something you never really keep in mind. I know we think about misspellings for URLs, but you never think about those automated communications. If somebody doesn't put in the right word, you got to account for those misspellings. That's a good tip.
Listen, I do, Mickey, because I always tell people like, no, that word is too hard to spell. No. And they're like, what? Yes. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to ask, specifically because when bringing people in from social media, you're bringing them in the system. And what I've done is segment people that, like you mentioned, you have other options if they're already opted in. So I would have campaigns that would target the people that I already have relationships with, target communications with them, and then loop it around, whether or not it's, second tier would be email or SMS, because we've got those information. Do you ever segment based on who's already in your system and then launch social campaigns directed to people you're already engaged with?
No, I don't, because I emailed them. So the people that are already in my system, I emailed them, but I do make it on that email part kind of easier. So for instance, again, for the webinar. So for the webinar, if you're already in my system, you don't have to go through filling out the form. All you have to do is click, yes, I want to come. No, I don't want to come. If you click, yes, I want to come, it's going to register you. If you click, no, I don't want to come, then it just loops you around to the next one. I'm gonna ask you again. So that's kind of what I do for people that's already in my system. Now, for instance, if they go and they engage on Instagram, it's going to already have their information there, right? Because the profile in High Level is linked. So your Instagram profile is linked to your customer record or your lead record, your profile record, your contact record. That's the word I was looking for. And so with your contact record, if you've messaged on Instagram, it's already going to have your information. So we could run a campaign per se if someone wanted to do that from DM or Facebook Messenger for people that are already in their database the same way to say, if you want this offer, click here. If you don't, click here. And then it could just automatically register them for whatever that is instead of them having to go through and fill out the form. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I like the fact that you pointed out what's possible on the contact record, because a lot of people don't take advantage of all the different things that you can either curate or note. I think you call them tags, when you tag the record and note different things. And that's another way to kind of segment the audience. And I haven't done much of it, but I like the fact that you noted that we could initiate the campaigns on social. So I think that's another thing, because a lot of people are communicating on social. And that was another thing I wanted to ask. A lot of people are big fans of what you can do with Facebook Messenger, the reach, the tools. But I know a lot of people use the messaging on Instagram. Is there any one that you found more successful than the other, Instagram over Facebook Messenger?
No, it just depends on the audience, right? It depends. Everything is determined by your audience and the engagement. What engagement have you been keeping up to this point, right? So if you some people are more active on Facebook than they are on Instagram, right? Some people are more active on one platform other than over another, and their audience is more active and more receptive to respond. So
Yeah.
that question is really based off of where is your audience, and that's why it's so important to know where your audience is and where they're going to be more responsive to you. There are people who are killing it in Facebook Messenger, and there are people who say, well, Facebook Messenger just doesn't work for me and my business. It's not that it doesn't work. It just doesn't work for you and your business because that's not where your audience is. So it
Yeah.
has to be where your audience is, and then the right audience, right? So that's why it's so important to know where the right audience is for your business and for your offer.
That is a big deal. So I think people should really take note because there's different places. Some people are on Facebook, some people are on Instagram, a lot of people are on LinkedIn, some people are on TikTok, and each place has a different sort of like mode of behavior and how people are used to communicating.
Mhm.
The one thing I wanted to also mention is there's been a lot of talk about sentiment. Like with AI and automation, it can now pick up on what they call sentiment. So whether or not your customer is complaining or trying to give you a great review, it can now pick up on the tone and reply in kind. So if your customer is having a problem, they're shouting out on social, it can reply and either suggest customer service or suggest another solution. Have you been playing around with that any like the automated? I know we talked about tone of voice, but also sentiment.
No, I have not been playing with sentiment at all, nor have I been asked. But now, thanks, Mickey, because now they're going to ask me about it. But I can see where that could be really helpful. And as you were saying that, one day, as I was using Chat GPT, it gives you the option to have the voice read to you what it wrote. It
Yeah.
read it with sentiment. I was like, oh, okay. In the inflections and everything, I said, oh, okay. Well, maybe I should just record this and put it out there. You did it. I don't need to re-record it. But yes, I can see where that's going and how that's really helpful, because it definitely helps people with being able to manage their business without having to be everywhere, right? This is why we want to use AI, because if we use AI, we're able to capture things that we're going to miss or that the human is going to miss. It's not to say we're trying to put anyone out of a job. We're just trying to make sure that we provide the best customer service that we can for people. And unfortunately, we can't be everywhere. That just allows you to give your team better opportunities to focus on other areas.
So now you mentioned something, you bring something to mind
Mhm.
when you say voice and the sentiment in voice in AI. So I think it's is it Clear Voice or something like that people have been using in tandem with Go High Level that provides a voice response that can actually call. It can use like AI dialers and then integrate it with the system. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I
What is the name
am.
of that service that they
I
use?
don't know which one it is. It's so many out there. It's multiple ones. And I know there was a whole I stopped looking into it because the FTC is putting out regulations about having AI call people, cold call people. Then it was saying, okay, well, it's okay if we call them if they've opted in, right? So I just left the
Yes.
whole thing alone. But I do know that it really is a good way to keep a connection, but I haven't really played with the service after that. I think the one that I had attached was AI conversation something. I don't even remember who.
Conversation AI.
Yeah, it something. I don't remember. I would have to pull my high level up to see because it's still connected. But I don't use it, but I do know people who are using it. We just really focus on having the AI get the messages off of Instagram. Instagram and Facebook, and if people text, some people have to start there. We kind of get the people started in there, and they're good with that.
Yeah, I think in the one instance I heard, I think you know who Runway Billionaire.
Yes.
So I heard him talk about how he was using it. And I think what they were doing is, whether it is that they have a webinar or some sort of event where they're pulling in leads. So let's say for a given webinar, let's say they pull in, let's say 5,000 leads in a given weekend. It would be very difficult for a sales team to call 5,000 people on a follow up. So what they do is they automate using the voice AI to have those 5,000 webinar attendees get a sales call from the AI just to kind of validate what their business need is and if they would be interested in talking to a salesperson. And then if they're interested, if the contact information is valid, then that contact gets laddered up to an actual human. But it prevents them from either losing out on 5,000 leads or being able to actually action on it. Mixed results. I've heard mixed results. Some people don't like talking to AI. Can really obviously tell because there's a little bit of a lag in the conversation. But some people don't mind if they really want the information. If it's something you really want, then you're not going to mind. Like if you were trying to get a Mercedes Benz and an automated AI calls you from Mercedes, like if you really wanted it, you wouldn't care. You were like, yeah, let me get that. Let me get that E-Class.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. My opinion on that is that be upfront and honest, right? So even when I put things out here that are AI, right? I have some AI talking videos. It says it in the video, hey, I'm AI Jen, right? And so just being honest so people can know that, oh, okay, this is the AI. This is the purpose of me calling you. Hey, I'm calling you because, Jen wants to know, blah, 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 blah. I think that would be more receptive than just having it called to act like an actual person. And I think in the industry, just period, this is why people don't want to talk to AI because you're making it seem like it's a person when it's not. So if you were just honest and said, hey, Mickey, this is AI Jen. Jen wanted me to call you because you are on the webinar and we wanted you to book a call to move forward or whatever. Are you interested in moving forward? And then you can have a conversation, right? I think that's less scary than, hey, this is Jen, blah, 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 blah. This is not Jen. I know Jen. Jen does not sound like this. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just the presentation and the way you approach it. It would make people less wary of it. Like, you know what I mean? As opposed to just putting it off as, this is the AI bot. I'm about to steal all your information because that's what they're thinking. This AI bot is about to steal all my information and hack my bank account and all it is. That's what they're thinking. So you have to know that and know, hey, I'm not collecting any data, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a really good sort of place to kind of put a pin in it. Just that element of transparency, the element of honesty, because I think people, especially when they're being marketed to or sold to, are always going to be a bit leery. But I think when you're upfront about the type of communications it kind of sets people at ease and makes them understand what's happening. So I think that's a big deal, and just in terms of being successful. So I think that those were a number of really good points on the social media front. So I know we're about at our end, but I wanted to have a chance. I know you've got a webinar happening today. Wanted to have a chance to have you share with people what's happening with your webinar, what you're doing, and how they can get involved.
Sure. So today the webinar is at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what I'm going to be going over is teaching you how to use chatbots, AI, and automation in your business to be able to capture leads, do the DM to reply workflow, and all of that from social media and text messaging. And so the way that you can opt in and watch that webinar with me is by texting systems to the word 470-517-7006.
All right, systems, get your text on and get in the business with AI and automation. Awesome. Well, thank you. And again, it's Thursday, but it's our Friday. We won't be around tomorrow, but we'll see you next week back on Monday for Digital Marketing Network. And so in the meantime, stay safe, stay automated, and we'll see you later. Peace.